Year is not necessarily a fiscal year from January to December. It's from event to event. And so in my mind, we kind of go from Leather Pride to Leather Pride.
Yeah.
So I thought we'll pick it up from, guess what? We just finished Leather Pride 2023. Let's talk about what has happened to us since then. Well, the week immediately following Leather Pride was Gay Pride. And we were in the Gay Pride parade with the biggest presence PSLOD has ever had. We had the truck and the DJ and a huge contingency, so it was really quite impressive. Special shout out to Sam, who my nerves have not recovered, but Sam was very involved in being 17 feet above the air, putting the rickety truck together. And I was on the ground like, if it falls, we're at Gay Pride last year was the first time that what I call Team Bar, PSLOD, kind of kicked in. So we were asked to man one of the bars by Gay Pride, by Palm Springs Leather Pride, and kind of became the bells of the ball. So we became quite famous for how incredible our group was at handling the bar, how personable we were, how much fun we were. And of course, as everybody knows, we were asked to do it again at the Big Gay Barbecue. So again, making our mark, and forming that alliance with Palm Springs Gay Pride, which is great, which continues on to this day. Talking about some other things that, of course, people are familiar with, but they've really caught on. Know Thy Tribe. We've done some incredible Know Thy Tribe events. We've gone from bars to parks to all kinds of different events. They've been incredibly successful. We have one coming up in August. And they're great opportunities for people to come out and learn about each other. And they've been growing and growing and growing. The last one we did, interestingly enough, was a setup for our first education event. And it was probably the biggest one we've done. And it was at Hunter's, huge success. So we're going to continue to do those. But lots of success with Know Thy Tribe. I have to say, like, you're not a group who's not willing to share stuff, right? Like we've learned a lot about each other, and that's really exciting. I say this every meeting. I'm going to say it again. My favorite thing we do is the book club, the discussion club. We have now, our book club is off the hook. So from Leather Pride last year till now, we have read 5 books and actually are branching into more discussions around essays, intellectual themes. And so the last couple of outings we've had have not been around a book, but either part of a book or an essay. This is Know Thy Tribe on steroids. They've been incredibly successful. People share about themselves because the book club and the discussion group is really just a lens by which we share with each other what our opinions are about different topics. And at book club discussion group, dare I borrow some branding from the upcoming Leather Pride, we go deep. Yeah. And no topic is off the table. So again, really successful, lots of fun. These have been building, but they're really great. And so I encourage if you've not come out to a book club discussion group, please do so. They are really interesting. The next one we're going to do, interestingly enough, will be in August. It will be announced pretty soon in terms of time and location. And it's going to be about an essay that Grace Banner just wrote. And the title of the essay was, Are We Too Inclusive? So, I told you to go deep. So this will be a very interesting discussion because it's an interesting question. So look for that. But again, like we're having lots of success and lots of growth. Our plunge parties. So several years ago, we launched Plunge, and I actually launched it with the idea of it being a brand. and it has grown into a brand. Everyone in Palm Springs, there's no gay man I've ever spoken to in Palm Springs who does not know what the plunge party is, that it's PSLOD's pool party. They sometimes get mixed up if it's still at the Canyon Club, but if you're drinking all day at Sweet Bar, you lose track of what year it is. Oh, it moved? Okay. So our next plunge party is coming up September 1. And at our August meeting, we will be looking for volunteers to help support that party because, of course, plunge is one of the events we do that is very volunteer dependent and volunteer heavy. But again, another event that we do that really kind of raises our profile and is very successful. Our social media presence, and here I actually have to call out our Vice President, Bruce Mike. We now have a social media presence that we're on a number of platforms, and those platforms are being expressed on a weekly basis with new content. And I really have to say thank you. Because the key to social media is actually new content, right? And so that's one of the things that we've quite frankly, we struggled with a number of things in the past, not least of which is kind of just knowing how to do it. But the generation of new content, and having somebody who's willing to take that on, embrace it, and kind of drive it. And Mike has really done that. We have a really huge social media presence now. And I would argue the profile of our club is higher than it has ever been. That's really quite exciting, I think, for everyone. Our website is also more dynamic and more interesting, I think, than it's been in the past. We're about to go into heavy Leather Pride season, so it's going to become even more important to us. But thank you, Sam, for all the work that you've done, and Mike, and everyone who's contributed to the website, because it is an important component of our architecture, really, because it's how people can communicate with us. And as we go into Leather Pride, it's how our contestants will apply, etc. So, really, some great forward movement there. We had some good guest speakers this year. We will continue to do that. One of the things that's interesting about our monthly meetings is that we try to keep them to an hour and a half-ish, so that people aren't, kept too late. We start at 6:30. We try to end by 8. What's interesting about our meetings is we now have so much content and so much business. It's hard to fit in even a 20-minute talk because the next thing you know, it's 8:30. We had that great conversation with one of our donation recipients, PS Test, who had a great presentation on PAP. Have you taken a day off? That was his advice.
Damn, thanks, David.
Please, I'm working with good material. Well, when you have good material, I like to rehash it. But we're going to continue to do that wherever possible. It's just challenging because, good on us, our meetings are so robust. We have so many new members, so many people who are interested in the club, so much going on, that it's hard to actually schedule even a 20-minute presentation because it will take us, late into the evening. So that's a good thing, not a bad thing. But we'll certainly continue to look for those opportunities. This year, I would argue our philanthropic portfolio was the strongest it's ever been on a couple of fronts. We've given away money in the past, but I think this year we really did it in a strategic way, and it's something that I think the club should be very proud of. So, as I presented this during the meeting, so just to kind of reinforce, we really approached our philanthropy this year with a strategy. Is that we first of all wanted to impact kind of local organizations, local activities, really, and actually pick organizations where we could have an impact. Because there are very, very worthy organizations that $5,000 doesn't, that's our pay-per-click budget. That's not where we play. We play with organizations where we give them $1,000 And that's transformative for them in terms of programming. And so it was very interesting for us to identify those organizations. We were very successful. The executive worked very, very well as lots of input from the club. And this year, I would argue, our philanthropic portfolio is the strongest one we've had. So we went spectrum, young to the elderly, healthcare, cultural continuity, where's David? I'm calling it cultural continuity. But we really had a very strategic and I think successful plan. We put together a plan for our donations. And it was a very successful plan, and as everyone knows, it was incredibly well received by the people who received our donation. Game changers. Desert Smoke. So, we have a cohort within the leather, ink, and fetish community of cigar and pipe smokers, and there are events for them. And I would say shame on us being the executors of one of the biggest leather pride events in the world to not have something for that cohort. So this year, our Vice President, Lucian and Mike, came up with the idea of, well, wait a second, this can go on. So was birthed the idea of Desert Smoke. It was a huge success, and I again thank Mike for kind of choreographing and executing that basically on its own, but with a lot of volunteers from our group. And it really is kind of one of those transformative programs because I addressed the group on the Friday night and said, and I was being very sincere, look around, because 3 years from now you're going to be looking at 500 people, but you were the first one. I think several years from now this will be one of the premier smoke events in the world, and that's what our objective is to always be kind of striving for those things under the PSLOD umbrella. So really congratulations to everyone who did that. It was a huge success, but now this will be a yearly thing that will grow into its own brand, Play Smart, for again, a brand new program that we just launched. It's really, this was actually something that was sparked from an idea that Kyle had, based on, as we are all familiar, a kind of an unfortunate experience that someone had in Palm Springs. But it's not an experience that is alone. We're seeing lots of unfortunate experiences sometimes. And so we launched Play Smart. So 5 or 6 folks got together at my house. And we spent several hours putting together the message architecture for this entire communications program. And then I'd like to thank Michael Van Wy and John Kirby for really kind of doing the heavy lifting in this, because this is actually the real thing. This is a real PSA program. I'm sure everyone's seen it. Every message plank, we're about to launch into number 3. We're on number 2 right now, but we're about to launch into number 3. Every plank has 3 components. There's a video, thank you, Michael. There's what I call there's a picture, and then there's just text. And they repeat themselves throughout the month. And they're all basically just one message. And it's something that everybody should just be thinking about. And I have to say, I myself, not a month ago, was, believe it or not, with a cocktail. And I got up and brought it with me to the bathroom. And I went, wait a second, don't, you know. And so, if we just change one, we won't know it happened. We won't know it happened. But if we change one bad experience into a good experience, because someone went, oh, wait a second, this has been a giant success. So congratulations to us for doing that. Now, shout out to James Hollis. We kind of have a trifecta in our mission statement, if you will. One of it is, part of it is about community. Part of it is about philanthropy. We've already talked talked about that. We really kind of, I think, ticked both of those boxes very robustly. The one that was a little bit lacking was education and mentorship, which is part of our mission. And so I'd like to thank James because he really did grab that part of the portfolio and drag it across the finish line. So a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, at Zozo, we had the first of our educational sessions. It was called Impact. Flogging, spanking, and single tail were on the menu that evening. I have to tell you, I have attended a lot of workshops. This is one of the best I've ever been at. If you were not there, boo-hoo for you. I mean, this was really top-notch. It was so great to see this delivered in the way that it was. Our next session is probably going to be about fisting. And it was going to be about rope bondage, but who knew it was harder to find somebody who wanted to be turned up, tied up, than be fisted. People are crazy. They're crazy. Who knew? So sometime in August is part 2 of our educational series, but we're going to continue these. We're going to continue these through the year. And the overall idea of the educational portfolio was for 2024, this would be an internal thing. So as you saw with Impact, this was an invitation to PSLOD members and plus ones where appropriate. What will happen is in 2025, we'll actually turn that strategy around and kind of open it up to the community so that the educational component of PSLOD will become broader and it will be more of an offering to our community. But this year we're kind of keeping it in-house. And so far it's been a wild success, but I thank you so much, James, for that. A couple of our really big supporters. So I'd like to actually just thank Adrian and Greg and the team for running the They are like our most ardent supporters, and it's really just, and Mom, thank you so much for everything you do for us. And it's so appreciated, believe me. And then Rob Cole, who's not here this evening, because of course he's working at the tool shed. Again, Rob's answer whenever I ask him, what can I do what you want, like anything. Nothing is too much for Rob. Anything is a go for us, for PSLOD at the tool shed. So I'd like, even in absentia, I'd like to give him that. The last thing that I wanted to comment on was where I started, which is the fundamental mission, and certainly my kind of goal with PSLOD was about community. And we've talked many times at our meetings about what that means and why it's important. But I think this room this evening demonstrates where we are, how successful we've been, and we're not done. We're not done. Lots more to do, and lots of growth to be had. But I would just like everyone to give themselves a hand. I myself feel very fortunate to be part of this community. I wasn't part of it several years ago, and now I feel very much at home. And so I think we've been really fortunate to grow with each other, to meet each other, to get to know each other, and there's more of that coming. So thank you very much.
I think we can all agree that we live in interesting times. Politically, socially, there's a lot of divisiveness. There's a lot of angst and anger out there. And in my professional capacity, people often come to me asking, what can I do? My colleagues, my students, they come to me and say, what can I do? How can I be effective? And there's a million ways to be effective politically, socially, but there's one way, one surefire way, guys, that works every time, and it's building community. Building community is where we start. It's sine qua non, it's the foundation, it's the start. And this is what we do. I'm not being blunt. Whether you're hiking, or planning petunias, or planning a fisting party, you're building community. You're finding people who have like ideas, like thoughts, and maybe some different thoughts. Maybe you have to open up a little and, you know, stretch your envelope a little and learn what other people's experiences are. God forbid. But this is it. And we're doing that. This is fucking it. Community, respect, collegiality, kindness, interest, forbearance. This is it. I'd like to make a toast to you guys and to PSLOD. Long may we be here.
Here, here.
Cheers.